You've been listening to the, deeply resonant and sacred sounds of Constance Demby, and she pulled together that piece from her phenomenal instrument called the Space Bass, specifically for this show. And you can get a real sense from that piece of music, albeit briefly, how profound this sound and music can be in the places that it can take you, even through a very limited experience of small speakers on your computer. Imagine sitting at home in a darkened room with maybe a candle or two with relatively decent speakers and listening to something like that, and where that could take you in terms of an inner journey. And that's where I want to start today's show, was give you a taste and a feeling for what actually emanates through this wonderful woman that you're about to meet. And I've known Connie for over a decade now, and I started to meet her and connect with her at parties in Marin County through a mutual friend, and then in turn she and I became friends. And this is when she was living up here in the Northern California area, and then she invited me over to her studio to actually experience the Space Bass, and that's when we really bonded. And I wrote a piece about her on the Space Bass in my time in her studio, and that was printed on eMusic. You can actually find that on her homepage for her website, and my website as well, on the left-hand side where I have all my links. And so let's just jump into the now and bring Connie into the mix. Here she is, Miss Constance Demby, the godmother of contemporary electronic, classical, ambient space music. Hello? Connie?
Constance, where are you?
Connie, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
All right. We had a bit of a...
Okay. Hey, should I... yeah, all right. You can hear me now, right?
You, and I got the two numbers mixed up. Anyway, we're here now. How are you?
Hey, that was a fabulous intro. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
My pleasure to finally have you on the show.
Yeah, it's a delight.
And get this happening. So, again, sort of backtracking. We first met, I think, at one of Daniel and Linda's parties.
Yeah, I heard your intro. That's exactly where we met. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I first met you, I'd known about you for a long time, being in the music business and being around in the 1980s when Novus Magnificat actually was released, and I bought a copy of Novus Magnificat. I had it on cassette, by the way.
Yeah, Magnificat.
So I had that on cassette. So I was I had discovered you through a good friend of mine, and that's where I really started to tap into your muse was during that time. But getting to know you personally was, I think, back about 12 years ago, and then we corresponded via email, and then we hung out at your studio, which is where I experienced that Space Bass. And that was a really incredible night for me, as you and I have shared together.
Yeah, I remember.
And I've really been very connected with you ever since that moment in time, and having that experience on the musical tip.
I love your article that when it came out on eMusic, I thought it was one of the best descriptions of an experience that is very difficult to describe, because music, and especially the Space Bass, it's just beyond words. If music is the word of God, and in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was sound.
Uh-huh.
I mean, sound is what created creation. I mean, sound is pre-atomic. Sound created atoms. I mean, creation didn't start by some guy saying, hey, let there be light. It was sound. And then there was light. So this is the power and the incredible profundity of sound. And the other thing I love about sound, and especially the Space Bass, is it gets you out of the mind. And the mind is just blah, 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 words and chatter and concepts and everything. But the space base melts the mind. The mind can't even fathom what's going on. So it finally shuts up with the space base.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, I had no idea what I was going to experience when I hung out with you. Now, just to let people know, you do these space-based experiences for individuals, and you do them for groups as well?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I should mention that if any of the fans listening are in the Los Angeles area, visit the website, ConstanceDemby.com. I just got everything up. There are 2 events, March 24th and March 25th. And March 24th is a concert, Music from the Heart of Love, a healing concert. People experience pretty amazing events in concerts as well. And then the next day will be all space-based. It's like a 3-hour event. It's a vibrational sound healing attunement workshop called Sonic Immersion, and it's like a therapeutic bath on a cellular level with those potent subsonic frequencies. And then the night before, Music from the Heart of Love is like vibrational musical medicine and transcendent energies and therapeutic healing tones, and it's like sound healing alchemy. And you can feel it.
That I experienced after.
Parts. There's another thing that's happened on the website are when people who have psychic sight, who can see beyond and can see what's actually happening in the invisible atmosphere. I must have hundreds of reports from psychics who say that the moment the music starts, all the beings and the guides of all the people who are present, all those guides come in, and they begin working on everyone. And that's why the room gets so deep and so quiet and so kind of heavy with potent vibrations, because there's multiple, countless invisible beings working on everyone. And when I first started hearing that, I went, wow, that's really cool. And the last concert I did in Malibu, this woman said that the ETs had usually come to work on all the people, but she said this time, because she'd been to, has really good psychic sight, and she said this time they were all lined up around your instruments in a huge arc, and they had come to get a healing from you and your tones. And I went, wow. So the stuff that's happening on the invisible levels is always fascinating to me, because I can't see that, but the people who can see it, I find that just fascinating. Anyways, where were we? Yes, 2 events, March 24th and 25th and all the information's on the website. Just go to ConstanceDemby.com and go to the event page.
Well, to your point, when I experienced the space base, in addition to me being able to feel it, interpret it, articulate it, it changed me. I mean, for about 3 days afterwards, I was really in a very different place.
How beautiful, Robert. I don't know if you ever told me that.
Oh, yeah. It's in the article. I think you can find it. It's in the article, but it's not.
I'll read the article again.
It's more
about, it has a way of doing that. What did you experience? I'm just curious. It was a long time ago.
A real depth and clarity. For days it was like, in the article I talk about how space was opened up inside of me, and I brought that space back into my life, and felt like for about 3 or 4 days at least I was in a pretty nice sweet spot, and grace was a word that was coming up. It was very cool, to be honest with you.
Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, I love hearing that.
Yeah. So you know what I did, Constance? I went to All Music Guide, and I went to look at your bio, and I think it's worth reading, because Carol Wright, I think, did a really good job in capturing.
Oh, Carol's great. Yeah, she's a fabulous writer. One of the best writers, I think, in the industry.
Yeah, and I've known Carol since the early 90s, and she actually conscripted me to write for NAPRA Review. Do you remember that magazine?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's how far back I go with Carol. And this is what she says about you. And you're not gonna like the word New Age, but it's in here. So let's just kind of get beyond that.
We all deal with it.
So it says here, Constance Demby is one of the few representatives of the New Age movement in both her music and her personal philosophies, who consistently creates artistic, highly expressive compositions. Demby was trained in classical music as a child, and her artistic spirit led her to also master several other art forms at the University of Michigan. She studied painting, sculpture, and music. It was her work as a sculptor that led her to new dimensions of sound. As she was torching a sheet of metal, it roared thunderously, and thus was born the sonic steel instruments, the whale sail, and the space bass, enormous bowed instruments with deep archetypal resonances. As an innovator in the world of sound, Demby learned a number of ethnic instruments and found ways to use them inventively. She co-founded a unique multimedia group, Central Maine Power, Sound, and Light, which toured the East Coast from 71 to 76 with their Space Mass program and other groundbreaking light, sound, planetarium shows. And it says here that you're a fifth-generation Californian, which I did not know. And
yeah. My great-great-great-great-grandparents came over the Donner Pass, but they weren't one of the ones that ate the corpses.
Well, that's good.
But I wouldn't have blamed them if they had, because after all, the people were dead, so let's get something to eat. Anyway, go ahead.
So she goes on to say here, the mid-'80s brought changes in recording technology with the advent of digital sampled sounds. Demby embraced this electronic revolution to compose contemporary space music using a full range of symphonic instruments, pipe organ, and choral voices. Tapping into her spiritual guidance, she brought through track-by-track Novus Magnificat, the album that many call the most important New Age recording of all time. That's heady stuff there, don't you think?
Well, Novus, that was the pinnacle. And, you know, the 80s, well, I won't get started, but yes, I was primed for that album. And a psychic who was looking at my incarnation, she said, Constance, all you really had to do when you incarnated here was to make sure that you got Novus Magnificat out. And you could have left the planet after that. And I went, darn. Anyways, it was just an aside. But she said that was the main reason I've come to the planet. And then she said, but you decided to stick around because you thought it was interesting here. So I'm not really from here, and I've always known that.
You're having too much fun here. And I know the gravity gets heavy in this place, but you're having too much fun here.
Yeah. Let's say it's a very interesting to be here, and I am actually more comfortable in other realms. But let's not go there. Go ahead, continue the article.
So it says here, and this is where I kind of want to jump off and start to talk about your process a little bit. Demby says of the artistry and spiritual impact of her music, Novus Magnificat reached up and out to catch a galactic beam through space. What did you mean by that?
Well, Novus Magnificat, we have to realize that when I sit down to compose, all I had was a minor descending triad. Dee, da, da. That's all I had. And Kirpal Singh Ji, a very great master, actually announced the title to me when I had a studio in a van for a while before I got my place so I could start to record. And he said, Novus Magnificat, in this huge, booming, gravelly, low voice. And I just kind of saluted and I went, yes, sir. So he gave me the title. I had nothing but a descending minor triad, dee, da, da. And from that point, the entire thing unfolded. And there would be times when I would walk out of the studio, I'd go have some lunch, and I'd come back. And I remember I played the piece I had just recorded, and I went, oh, my God. And I realized I had very little memory of even doing it. So what we're talking about is being completely overtaken by huge, cosmic, magnificent spiritual master energies that just pour through you. And this happens every time I either perform or record. I have an idea, and then I start playing, and you can feel it happening. The room just gets, it's like it dissolves. Mm-hmm. And that's why all those beings are in the room. They're not only touching all the people, but they're channeling cosmic, sound beams through me, and I'm just wide open. Mm-hmm. I'm just wide open, and I just let it flow through me, both in concert and in recording albums. So Novus was, that's how all the albums happened. But Novus was a peak experience.
Well, clear for me, and I think anybody that's listened to that recording, the amount of emotion or emotional content in that piece it's stunning. I mean, it is almost overwhelming on some level.
It is, yeah. You know, what I love to do sometimes, I'll be going through my website and I'll be, updating the Novus page, and then I'll stop and read some of the letters, and I'll go, my God, this is unbelievable. What people are experiencing with this album. I mean, I have boxes of letters from before the internet for both Eterna and Novus, where people say their lives were changed, their condition was healed, fatal conditions. Many people decided not to commit suicide because of Novus. Men weep with Eterna because Eterna is like the wife of Novus. Novus is the husband, and Eterna is the wife. They're because Eterna came through each decade. They give me a major message for humanity and for planet Earth. Novus was the 80s. Eterna was the 90s when we started to process emotional issues. So Eterna is as gorgeous as Novus, but just in a very different way. It goes into the heart with very special healing tones to help the buried emotional issues that are buried in everyone's heart, all the sadness and pain. And when you get to a certain point in Novus, grief is handled. And if you listen to Eterna enough, you can handle a lot of buried grief, especially for men, because they've had to, do some really. They've been the warriors and done all the killing and everything. So where were we? Yeah, and then in 2000, Sanctum Sanctorum appeared within a couple of weeks of 9/11. Now, I could never have planned that. And I was in Spain at the time, and everybody was writing me from the United States saying that's all they could listen to because it was very pure high Christ energy, which was specifically tuned for what was coming. So I had to start that album like a year ahead of time, and here it came out exactly at the right time. I mean, there's so many energies that are directing these things. I just, try to get out of the way and just let them do it.
And what about for the 2010s? Where are you with your
well, with
for the 2010s?
I stopped composing for quite some time after I got home from touring, and that's a whole other story. But for 2011, Ambrosial Waves comes out, which is not like any album I've ever done, and I kept questioning, why are we doing this? And it was just like I couldn't, not do it, because Ambrosial Waves is just like a wave. It's just a wave of ambrosia. There's no big this or big that or going over here or doing that. It's just very, very, very soothing. And it's because the amount of stress that is now in the atmosphere, starting with the last wave of the Mayan calendar, which started last year at March when the whole planet started exploding with Egypt and Fukushima, and it hasn't stopped since. So when I put that album out, I went, oh, well, I just kind of let go of it. And now sometimes I will keep that on automatic replay for hours because it does something to the atmosphere that is very subtle and soft and soothing. It doesn't even sound like a Demby album. But I put it out because that's what they wanted. They wanted an absolutely put-you-out nerve tranquilizer for the upset on the planet these days.
Right. Well, we can certainly use as much of that as we can as the turbulence and chaos of the world begins to reach.
Yeah, well, Armageddon actually is trial. It means, in one sense, Armageddon, trial by fire.
Mm-hmm.
And a trial by fire is not only what we're seeing on the outside, but it's happening inside of every individual. As everything that is not aligned, is being processed.
Yeah. I totally agree.
It's like, here we go, you can't hide anymore from anything. It's just like, and that's where the albums will help, all of those albums, the major albums, and they're all on the website, ConstanceDemby.com. Those albums will help you to process those feelings a lot quicker, because that's how the music's designed.
Mm-hmm.
So I recommend to people, get the major albums, Eterna, Novus, Sanctum, Ambrosia. They're all there, or just write me and I can help guide you. And it's always good, of course, to order from the artists' websites due to the complete and fatal collapse of the music industry.
Speaking of music industry, you've had a very long collaboration with Stephen Hill, who is the owner of Hearts of Space, Music from the Hearts of Space, now mostly a radio show, not necessarily a label, although he does have...
Yeah, they sold all their albums or transferred all their albums over to Valley Entertainment.
And I've known Stephen for a while, and I like Stephen a lot. And I've always been curious as to what Stephen's reaction was when you handed Novus Magnificat over to him and said, "Here you go, Stephen. This is what I've been doing."
Hearts of Space was a radio program before that, but Anna Turner helped Stephen to come into a more professional, larger. She was really instrumental in helping him with the programming and then getting everything together. And when I brought them Novus, it literally helped to launch the label.
Right.
It was a huge, huge thing. When they first played it on the radio, on their radio program, people were just dumbfounded. They'd never heard anything like it, and he loved it. Of course, he loved the album. And he and Warren Dennis and Anna Turner and I, there were 4 of us mixing that album with 2 tape recorders, because nothing was digital then.
Uh-huh.
And we had 2 and Michael Stearns did some of those big, fabulous sound effects. And, afterwards, Stephen said, "I think we should make a T-shirt that says, 'I survived the Novus mixdown.'" Because it was a trip, and I'm telling you, there were so many things happening in nature and in the atmosphere. As we were mixing down that album, we had so many bizarre experiences, including huge storms, electrical storms, that were only over the area of the studio, and huge 2-inch tapes where all of a sudden the tape, for no reason at all, was crushed underneath those huge metal discs. I could write a book just about the Novus mixdown. Someday I'll write a book about my career.
That'd be great. I think you've got a lot to...
a lot of stories.
A lot of stories to tell. Let's dip into a few of those stories, if you don't mind. Let's go back in time. It's the 1970s. You're hanging out in Maine with a group of really cool people, and at that time you weren't even really a musician. You were just you were a sculptor and part of a collective, and you started to...
No, I was a musician from 8 years old. 8 years old.
Okay, but you weren't actually doing music
old.
at the time, though, were you? I mean, you were like...
we were. I've always been doing music, but not on the scale of being in a group. I always used to just play piano, and I did concerts at 12 years old. Uh-huh. And then with Central Maine Power, when the Sonic Steel instruments got birthed, and I was playing the hammer dulcimer, and then later came the electronic keyboards. Yeah. So but I had a keyboard with the Central Maine Power Company. So yeah, it went in stages. Yeah, go ahead, say what you were saying.
Well, I'm just, you and I have talked about this a little offline, and how different decades have different energies. You and I have talked about the 80s and how much we enjoyed the 80s and how challenging the 90s were. And some of the people who listen to this show, believe it or not, don't have a real understanding or recollection of what the 70s were
Oh, the
like.
70s were so much fun. Oh, it was so free. I mean, everything was being birthed.
Right.
You know, we had been, you know, what did we call it before we were hippies? I can't pull the term right.
Bohemians.
Bohemians. First,
Yeah.
I was Bohemian. You know, Greenwich Village, and you'd go to the coffee shops, and then we had the first be-in in New York in Central Park, and I was there with some of my people who were, you know, we were preparing Space Mass. And everybody would come up to us and say, what are we supposed to do? What is this? What should we do? And we just said, I don't know. I think we're just supposed to be. It's a be-in. It was such a fun time. And then, of course, I did Space Mass, and that really launched my career because Space Mass was the birth of the sonic steel instruments with electronic music done by my husband, David, my ex-husband, and dancers and lights, incredible lights projected onto the sculptures. It was absolutely a revolutionary show. It blew everybody's mind. And then it was a weird time then. All of the great people like Kennedy and Martin Luther King, everybody was being assassinated. And we all got out of New York. We just couldn't stand it anymore. And we all went to Maine and became Central Maine Power Sound and Music and toured for a couple of years. So that was the 70s. And then the 80s was the beginning of my career. I landed in California, and the first concert I ever did, I don't know where those people found out about me, but there were 200 people at the first concert I ever did in California. And then I went straight to Hearts of Space, and they published Sacred Space Music.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the 70s were still very, very liberated. The 80s was like the cream of the crop and the birth of New Age music, I would say. Then the 90s, that decade, things started getting a little strange, and I could feel that there was some weird stuff happening by the second half of the 90s. And then we had 9/11, and then the entire frequency of the United States was changed. And that's why I couldn't record for a very long time. And neither could some of my friends who are very deep channels. They couldn't find their channel.
Right.
That's how noxious and horrible that event was, because that was a frequency-caused event, and the planes hitting the building was just the physical part. But I'm so attentive to what was happening. That's why you didn't get any albums from me for about 5 or 6 years. It's devastating.
Right. Well, it changed. It changed not only the frequency of the United States, but the entire planet as a result.
The entire
planet. It was a very dark, magical ritual.
Very dark.
And we have been crawling literally out of the rubble of that darkness ever since then.
No, I know. I feel it. It's taken us 10 years to just go, what the heck just happened? What happened? Where did it go? Where did everything go? If we ever had a program about what's really going on this planet and who and what is really behind the scenes, people would be shocked. They would be so shocked.
Well,
I've done a lot of research.
I don't know. I
don't even want to go there right now.
Well, that's coming. I mean, we're in the time of revelation.
Yeah.
And people, I can't. I've been doing this hardcore on my website for 4 years now, and being in the churn of it. I've been in it before my website, but this is really the churn. And I can tell you, from when I first started this in 2008 in earnest to now, that the amount of awareness and the amount of attention that people are bringing to what's happening on the planet is unparalleled. I can attest to that.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? Thank heavens. More people are waking up and realizing what's going on here.
Yeah.
My facilitator, who has a psychic sight like nothing I've ever seen, she claims that there's a frequency fence around Sector 13. And you can see it in the second matrix.
Mm-hmm.
This is another conversation. So, we don't even know when we leave here. She said there's a way that they trap the souls to keep them coming back here. So is another conversation to find out the exit point. I wish you could interview her. I don't know if she'd ever appear, but anyway.
Bring her on, because the whole idea of the soul catcher is very interesting.
Yeah.
And but I can attest to the fact that things are changing in a huge way. I'm a big proponent of as above, so below, as without, so within. And what we're seeing in the world right now in terms of this synthetically manipulated global chaos, there is another emergent reality that's coming from the inside of us that is equally as powerful, but not as discernible, and that's happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, that whole system, this is Armageddon in that it is trial by fire on the outside and on the inside. So the bullshit that's going on and all of this horrible stuff is going to be revealed. But we have to remember that the people who have all the power and money, they're not going to let go of that easily. So I see it happening in stages. Mm-hmm. You know, it's got to crumble because it's so out of balance. And then we are here. My facilitator said our group that this is the 4th time we have attempted the ascension. That means the first 3 times did not take.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the powers that have their grip on this planet. They don't want people waking up. They want to hold all the money, all the power, all the demonic. When you serve Satan, you get amazing powers. Amazing.
Well, this is why we have things like Super Bowl rituals and the ritualized murder of pop stars on the eve of nationally televised events, so that these events can be drilled deeper and deeper into everybody's psyche and consciousness.
Yeah.
And by the way, again, more and more people are getting hip to this trip. But what's fascinating too is that the overt symbolism, which is being used in these events, is becoming more and more plain sight, more and more hidden in plain sight. In fact, hidden isn't even an operative word anymore. It's very blatant.
Yeah.
And there is a revelation of the method, and I have my own thoughts about why that's taking place. But the bottom line is that we're coming to an event horizon.
Yeah.
That's my feeling, and I can't tell you when that's going to take place. I'm not sure if it's 12, 21, 12, or 12, 12, 12. I don't know, but it is coming, and the whole point of this, for me at least, is for as many of us to get to that point as open and turned on as possible.
Yeah,
If that's what you call the ascension, because I don't have a handle.
I don't think that everything is going to change in a moment.
Right.
You know, it's an ongoing evolution, and I think what there is that day has been marked because there is a very important astronomical event happening where we're lining up with the center of our galaxy.
That's right, and the sun is actually in front of the Earth.
So huge. Yeah. Everybody thinks that, it's going to happen on that day. No, that's just, part of the change.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't everything doesn't change in an instant. It's an ongoing. But that is a very interesting date. But the thing is, the more people believe something's going to happen, now you get into another realm. As you believe it, so shall it be. But you can't make something happen that isn't. All right, never mind. Go ahead.
Well, no. I think you're in this really interesting place between magical thinking and really kind of testing the fibers of reality and or what we call reality in this reality feedback loop. And I think that most people, if they have a real clear sense of who they are, where they are, and are grounded in their lives, they can discern between the two. Magical thinking is really dangerous, but having a real sense.
What's good is intention.
Yeah.
Intention and belief is where you really make stuff happen. You create it inside yourself, and you say, this is what I intend. As you believe it, so shall it be, those kinds of things. But magical thinking, oh, no, I agree, that's kind of dangerous. I mean, you have to be grounded in your intention.
So I'm just curious. We're skipping around a little bit in terms of time and events, but I'm just curious. When you listen to Novus Magnificat again throughout the years, what's your relationship like to that piece? I mean, is it always sharing something new with you? I mean, how vital is that for you on an ongoing basis?
When I listen to that album, when I listen to any of the major albums, I go, oh my God. You know, it's like I purposely don't listen for very long periods of time because I want it to be fresh when I do listen. And it's just, you know, I don't know how to say it. I just go, this is amazing. This is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like, did I do this?
Right.
And, you know, or, oh my God, I love this part, or tears, or exaltation, you know, the whole bit.
Right.
So, yeah, they're like my children.
Like your children, I love that.
And those are my special, special children, the children that would be, you know, the prize. They'd be the prince and the princess and the king and the queen. And then there's all the others that, you know, what I consider, you know, secondary messages. But then people write me and say, oh, my God, this is my favorite you've ever done. And I go, huh?
That's
so
good.
Everyone is different. Everyone has a huge story. I'm going to write a book. And each chapter will be the story of the album.
I hope you write the book. I hope I'm in your book too.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know who's going to be in it because
I'll even be a minor character. I'll be happy.
Okay. And then I met Robert. Remember when you had that night when you heard the space bass and we came up to my room and the chair collapsed.
That was crazy.
That was hysterical. No, but neither of us knew what would happen.
So
and you didn't hurt yourself. It was just that kind of night. You know, everything was just, you know, shooting out all over the place.
All right, so let's give people a clear picture of this. I'm in this house in, where is that, Greenbrae?
Eating noodles.
So we go into your place and it's me and you and this young girl, and your space base was in a room where they had a swimming pool.
Yeah, that was downstairs.
Yeah, so there was a bunch of water. There's a lot of water in this room.
Yeah.
Even though the pool was covered and it was cold. I believe it was February, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I probably gave you blankets and pillows.
Blankets and sleeping bags, and you just played, and we just you know went and journeyed with this thing. And then afterwards, we went back upstairs to your studio, and you made me some noodles, and was it curry or something like that?
Whatever.
Yeah, and I'm sitting down in this, it was like a lawn chair, right?
Yeah, it was a lawn chair.
And all of a sudden, it just collapsed.
I'll never forget it. That was so funny. I'm so glad you weren't harmed.
It was like all the atoms in the lawn chair just said, "Fuck it, we're done."
Oh, yeah. Robert, we've had a colorful history.
That was really funny. And then there was that time when you and I were actually up at the cave. Do you remember that, the tunnel?
Oh yeah, gee, that was a long time ago.
You know, I really wanted to get you into that scene up there.
Yeah, whatever.
That would have been perfect, and Alan would just not let go of his ego. I'm sorry, I love Alan, but he wouldn't let go of his ego to bring you in there and let you play the space base in that amazing tunnel.
Who was it? Alan who?
Alan Tower.
Oh, I don't think I know him.
Yeah,
he had the other guy who did the didgeridoo.
That's Stephen.
Yeah.
Stephen. And it was so cold that night, and you and I decided to go down the hill.
Oh, I remember now, yeah.
And get some hot food and wine at that Italian restaurant, which was outrageously good, wasn't it?
Well, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun anyway. So, Constance, what inspires you now? What keeps you moving and living and breathing?
Well, gee whiz, I mean, I'm always doing something. Right now, it's the upcoming concert. I haven't performed for about a year because I kind of really retreated for the last year. So now I'm performing again. I've got at least 2 or 3 albums ready to go. not ready to go, but in the hopper, one after another, different kinds of albums. Some are, well, whatever, those will be coming out, so people should just check the website. And I'm excited about the Music from the Heart of Love and the next day, the Sonic Immersion, so I'm working towards that and starting to get that put together. And I know that there's a couple of major albums. One of them I've been waiting 20 years to do. She's not ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's the big mama. It's the mother or sister of, it's the female Novus. And I was given her that album back in the very early 90s, and I tried to do it, and I couldn't do it because I had to back out. I was taken out into space to these huge cosmic doors that must have been 100 feet high. Were encrusted with planets and jewels and all kinds of stuff, and I pushed open the doors just a little bit, and I saw this, what seemed to be a female figure that must have been 1,000 miles high, and I couldn't see the top of her, I couldn't see the bottom of her, and I knew it was the mother, because I know, because Novus was the father energy, up and out, right?
Yeah.
The mother energy is down and in. It's a little bit more complicated, as women are more complicated than men with our ability to create life. Mm-hmm. So I backed out of those huge cosmic doors, and I said, I am not ready for this. It was too huge.
Right.
And instead we got Eterna, which was the feminine energy in the form of Eterna, which is like the sister of Novus. But the mother of Novus will be this album, and I'm gearing up for her. And my facilitator warned me. She said, you're going to be going down to the telluric realms, to 2D. 2D. Not even 3D, but also way beyond 3D. Mm-hmm. So she warned me. She says, we've got to get you prepared to be able to go down there because you're going to go into her core. And I've already been to her core because that's when they gave me the title of the album and the whole feeling of it. But so that's been hanging around for 20 years, and I just simply need to be in the right space. I'll know when it's time because she'll knock on my shoulder and say, okay, are you finally ready, Miss Demby?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Please don't make it hurt too much. Because you're giving birth.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you're a Taurus, aren't you?
Yeah, Taurus, Moon in Capricorn, Gemini rising.
Well,
Capricorn Moon is very good for music, even though it's not that comfortable.
Yeah.
It's very good for music because Capricorn brings energy into form. I had to have that Capricorn energy for the form of music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Jupiter is going to be trining your sun at some point, and probably you're conjuncting your sun and trining your moon.
Oh, I'd love to talk with you later about that. Maybe I can call you later about that.
We can talk about it offline. So you're going to have this elemental Earth energy available in abundance very shortly. I'm sure.
Wow.
So
well, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to do that album yet. Is it going to be in that? Will it be there for a while?
Well, the good news is that based on your Gemini rising, you're going to have Jupiter's in your 12th house, so it's happening at a very deep soul level, right? But the Jupiter moves fast, so once it conjuncts or trines a sign, you've got about a 2-week window for it to really work its magic. And you want to take it, Jupiter transits are pretty ephemeral. So when you get those exact trines or those exact conjunctions, or even the exact sextile, you've got about a 2-week window to make hay while the sun shines.
Wow, I'd like to know when that's going to happen. I'll call you later about that.
Yeah, but the good news for you though is that Jupiter will then move into your first house in Gemini. So it'll be hanging around for a year and a half in your first house. So.
Great. I'm ready to bust out now. I can feel everything is really potent in my atmosphere now. Ready to rock and roll.
Well, good. That's good. We like that. How did digital technology change what you do?
Oh my God. When I let's see, Novus was all done on tape recorders, and Eterna was all done on the computer. And once I got the hang of it, it was just like a miracle. It was a miracle, just like a miracle. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's just once I understood it, nothing could stop you. It was just the ease with which one can move phrases around and do incredible subtle, adjustments to the feeling of a sound. You just take your little pencil and you draw it in. Whereas if you had to do it on recording tape, oh my God, that feels so clunky at this point. I mean, you'd have to redo the entire track, go all the way back, and or start all over again if you didn't do it right. So I don't even remember how I used to compose on recording tape. So no, a complete revolution, and the digital revolution is here in many different kinds of ways, including everybody taking your music for free and putting it up on all these illegal sites and completely crashing and destroying the music industry. And
well,
now
the music industry allowed that to happen. I worked at eMusic, and I was there when Napster took off.
Yeah, I remember when Napster. I found everything I had ever done up on this site. I was so furious. It's like being raped.
Well, so here's my take on it, because I was very close to that. We were, in fact, our business model at eMusic, which was legitimate, had been torpedoed by Napster, and there was a lot of pushing and shoving going on, and Napster was shut down. And I remember everybody's sitting around the office. They're literally drinking champagne because Napster got shut down. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, hold on a second. You don't want to celebrate too quickly here.
That's
and sure
right.
enough, Orrin Hatch got involved. And Orrin Hatch got involved, and a bunch of other people got involved. And I'm pretty clear that the music industry had an investment in allowing Napster to proliferate so they could demonize this whole thing around downloading, right? And there was because they're desperately trying to hold on to their physical models and their brick and mortars, and they were not embracing downloading at a legal level. They just weren't, because they had so much invested in the other paradigm, and the music publishers were awful, and they were not. The music publishers, more than anybody, were the huge impediment to this. And I'm convinced that they allowed Napster to proliferate so that they could demonize downloading and try to hold on to their model, and it backfired on them in a huge way.
Well, it's just horrible what's going on, because to see your beautiful children that you spent so much time, money, and effort on, and now it's all over the place, and now the philosophy of everyone on the planet is, I can have all my music for free. I never have to pay the artist. I just want to get every one of those people in a room and say, I want you to sit down and listen to what it took to create this album. Mm-hmm. And you think that I should give you that for free and you don't have to pay anything for it? I'm telling you, Robert, it is a very bad feeling for an artist to realize that you're not going to get paid for your music.
Well, I agree with you, and for me it speaks to a much bigger issue here, which is the collapse of third-dimensional systems of distribution and compensation. We're seeing this across the board. I'm talking to you through a computer, and this call would not have been available to us in this form.
I know. I'm not saying that I'm against all of the digital technology. It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
I'm just telling you that it's endemic of a much bigger issue, right? We're approaching free energy is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And all of these little nodes, or big nodes in this case, are much more problematic because of how advanced technology has become. We need to push through the other side of the technological, brain blood barrier so that we can really start to move and groove on this planet, because the old paradigm is over. And what you've experienced, unfortunately, is endemic of that. And we haven't pushed through to the other side, and that's the problem.
I mean, look what they did to Tesla.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he ended his life as a broken man, wandering around the park, feeding pigeons. And Edison and all those guys just stole his technology. This is what people do. They just steal stuff, forget the inventor, and take it all for themselves. I mean, I hope they burn in hell.
I'm sure they've come back as a cockroach.
As a pauper.
Or something.
I hope they come back as a pauper.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, let's do this. I'm gonna have to transition and bring
you gotta go.
John Friedlander on in the second hour here, but we have a few more minutes, and I want to play Hallelujah before we go out of here and leave people with a real positive sense of your music and what's possible with your music. So let's just transition here. I want to thank you, Connie, for coming on. It's been a while, and we've been jockeying to get you on the show, but I'm really glad that you came on the show and made the effort, and I'm sure people that are listening are thrilled to get to know you.
Oh, that's so great! I'll tell everybody where it can be archived, because I think people probably want to hear it. You send me the link where it's archived. Oh, it's right on the show, right?
Absolutely the same link. So tell people about your website and about your shows again.
Okay, ConstanceDemby.com, and you'll see right on the home page. You can click to the event page. And the events coming up in the Los Angeles area, specifically over in the Pasadena, Sierra Madre area, are March 24th and March 25th. It's Saturday night, March 24th, and then an afternoon workshop, all with the space bass, those delicious tones, on Sunday afternoon, March 25th. And if you get them both, you get a deal price.
Okay, that sounds great. And if you're in the area, do that. And if you want to go vacation and take a weekend out or 3 or 4 days out and do something cool in California, there's your opportunity. Connie, thanks again, and love you. And we'll see you back in here sometime. Okay?
Love you, Robert. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed our conversation. Thanks, darling. Lots of love.
Take good care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that's Constance Demby. And what we're going to do now is we're going to transition here, and we're going to bring John Friedlander on in about 5 or 6 minutes. I think he's been patiently holding, by the way. And I'm going to play Hallelujah from Constance. And this is an incredibly moving track. And I'm going to play this and use this as a nice segue to open up psychically and begin to connect with John. John is a master psychic. He's the psychic's psychic. I first heard about him through Richard Grossinger, a mutual friend. And John has a book called Psychic Psychology. And what he's going to do, by the way, is towards the end of our time together, he's actually agreed to do some cold readings and answer some questions. So here's a chance for you to participate and tap into the show in a very multidimensional fashion. So let's listen to Hallelujah and set the stage for John Friedlander at the top of the hour. Here's Constance and Hallelujah. was interesting. I got disconnected, and apparently you guys were able to hear the music. I was not able to hear it for a while, and that's all good as long as you're able to hear it. I'm good. I'm good now. Thank you. Okay, that was Constance Demby in the absolutely stunning